Very good evening to all. So today we are starting our class 3 where we are going to talk about mainly the surface tension behavior between fluids and capillary effects. So moving towards next slides, what is surface tension? If I ask you, I think all of you know from your high school physics that surface tension force develop when there are two liquids which are immiscible to each other. So there is a virtual membrane that exists between those two liquids where there is a tensile force act upon the line of I think the line which are actually going to balance the force between these two immiscible liquids, so that the line actually give rise to some sort of surface which is known as membrane. Okay, so the surface tension force is actually nothing but a tensile force which uh, which actually act on the surface of the liquid when this is in contact with them another gas or another liquids. Those are immiscible in nature. And as I said, surface tension, why the surface tension force develops? Because there is an unbalanced cohesive force. The cohesive force try to balance each other. When there is a two liquids, when completely miscible each other, there is no surface tension force exist. But when there is a two liquids which are immiscible to each other, one liquid will not weight the another liquid. Okay, and that is mainly happen like if you drop a couple of oil in a water. Okay, or maybe water on oil, whatever, the vice versa, and you will see that oil bubble develops, which tries to, or maybe a soap bubble, right? The best example is a soap bubble, where the soap bubble try to expand or contract depending upon the pressure of the surface tension force and the inside pressures which are trying to balance each other. So these two forces, so let's move to the next slide and see how this surface tension force exists. So as you see from this schematic diagram, a liquid droplet is been given, and then this the arrow signifies actually the line tensions, okay, which exist, which develops on that particular droplet. So that intensity of the molecular attraction per unit length. So this particular line or this particular line, okay, the tensile force which exists between these two lines is called actually the surface tension. So by definition, a tensile force that is acting in the plane of the surface along any line of the liquid is called surface tension. The unit of surface tension is Newton per meter, that is force per length, and it is given by a Greek letter sigma. Let's move to the real life example. Here actually I am showing how to derive the expression for surface tension. You can see here a spherical droplet. The half plane of the droplet has been shown here. So consider this small spherical droplet of radius capital R. On the entire surface, there are two forces which are acting on it. One is the tensile force, which is surface tension force. Another is the pressure, which is trying to, the outside pressure or the atmospheric pressure, which is trying to balance that tensile force such that it will not expand or contract depending upon the which way the surface tension is acting. So the surface tension force here actually you can see these black arrows. This black arrow is actually surface tension force which is acting on the circumference, and the expression is given. And this next one is for a soap bubble. Now for the soap bubble there are two surfaces because one is the inside, another outside. So there will be two surface tension force acting parallelly. One is at the outside, another at the inside. Let's see how the equation has been developed or the expression has been developed. So let's let the droplet cut into two halves. Here I am showing the hemispherical cap, or actually the half, the spherical cap, or the one side of the droplet. So here actually one tensile force which develops the surface tension. You can see here where the tensile force is given by the circumference times the surface tension force. Now what is the circumferential area? This is 2 pi r because capital R is the radius. And the pressure force, which is nothing but the pressure into area. So that is the total amount of pressure force. If the pressure difference is del P, the area of that half circle is pi r square. So these two forces actually coexist on this spherical droplet and balance each other. So if we equilibrate these two forces, the equation or the expression for surface tension will be, we are just written for droplet and bubble. Now for the bubble there are 2 multiplied here. The reason is very simple, because there are one is inside, another is the outside. There are 2 surface tension force acting simultaneously at interior and exterior, but the expressions are pretty same. The pressure which has been developed on the droplet is 2 sigma by r. We're just equating these 2 expressions, and here the pressure of the bubble is 4 sigma by r. The 4 coming because we are multiplying this by 2. Because the hollow bubble, like a soap bubble in air, has 2 surfaces. That's what I mentioned. In contact with air, one is outside, another is inside. That's why the surfaces are subject to surface tension. So that is how surface tension force develops. Now let's look into another expression, the surface tension force for a liquid jet. Okay, so this is a cylinder which has a length of L and the diameter is D. Let the P is the pressure intensity inside the liquid jet. So liquid is flowing vertically, okay, as you can see. And if I see that sigma is the surface tension of the liquid, so what will be the at the equilibrium stage for this particular semi-jet? What will be the 2 forces? One will be the surface tension force, another will be the pressure force. That's what I just mentioned for spherical droplet. So the force for the pressure force will be the pressure into area. Now the area is the circumferential area, that is the length, and the D, LD. So the total force will be P into L into D. And what is the surface tension force? The surface tension are actually, as I mentioned, it's a line tension. So that is acting at the 2 edges of this semi-jet. So that is, if this length is L, if it has been acting at the 2 edges, then that will be surface tension into length. That is surface tension into 2L. So that is the total force. Okay. So if we balance these 2 forces, the expression will be P equal to 2 sigma by D. So that is the surface tension of a liquid jet. I think I briefly explained what are the different expression for surface tension at different geometrical shape and when the liquid is flowing through it. So let's look into some practical example. As I said that this particular course has a lot of numerical throughout the semester. So whenever I say something about any particular like topic or any particular scientific formula, we better to do some numerical and get it clear. The idea, I mean, the concept will be much more clear. So let's look into this problem. Find the surface tension in a soap bubble of 40 millimeter diameter when the inside pressure is 2.5 Newton per meter square above atmospheric pressure. So all the parameters are given. The diameter is given 40 millimeter. So if I convert into SI unit, it will be 40 into 10 to the power minus 3 meter. Pressure is given 2.5 Newton per meter square. Now, what is the expression for soap bubble? I just mentioned P equal to 4 sigma by R. So 4 sigma by R is nothing but 8 sigma by D. We just plug this value. So what is the surface tension? It will be 0.0125 Newton per meter. That's how you calculate the surface tension. Let's look into some other problem. Here the pressure outside the droplet of water diameter is given 10.32 Newton per centimeter square above atmospheric pressure, and the water droplet is 0.4 millimeter. So calculate the pressure within the droplet if surface tension is given 0.0725 Newton per meter. So here actually you have to determine the pressure. All other parameters are given. The diameter of the droplet is given 0.4 millimeter. Outside pressure at the droplet is given. Surface tension force is given. So the expression for the droplet, this is not unlike the soap bubble, this is a simple droplet. So the expression will be P 4 sigma by D. To plug these values, what are the parameters given? Pressure you calculate 0.725 Newton per centimeter square. Now outside pressure already was given, it's 10.32 Newton per centimeter square. So that was above the atmospheric pressure. So total pressure will be outside pressure plus the inside pressure. Pressure inside, because the outside pressure, the bubble or the droplet is within the atmosphere, right? So if the atmospheric pressure is also, you have to take into consideration while you determine the total pressure inside the droplet. That's why the pressure plus the pressure outside the droplet, that will be total 11.045 Newton per centimeter square. If any numerical atmospheric pressure is not given, you can consider it's 1 atmospheric pressure, and accordingly you will solve it. And you can ignore it also. If I say that atmospheric pressure can be neglected, so that pressure should be 0.725 Newton per meter square. So that these are the expression where you can have different meaning. If atmospheric pressure is not considered, then you can report this value, the 0.075. If atmospheric pressure is considered, then you have to add that amount, and then the total pressure you have to report. So let's move to the next subject, which is capillary effect or capillarity. I think you all know what is capillary effect is. Whenever if you have a bucket of water, if you put some cylindrical tube inside it, the liquid is going to rise inside the tube due to the surface tension effect, right? So that rise in the tube is known as capillary effect. So capillarity or capillary effect is defined as a phenomena by which liquid in a small tube either will rise or fall depending on whether that the contact angle is greater than 0 or less than 0, like whether it is the liquid is going to wet the surface of that tube or it's not going to wet. Like generally water actually wets the glass tube, so the water will rise. Whereas the opposite phenomena happens during mercury. Mercury will not wet the surface of glass, so liquid is going to fall. So there is a depression, but both are actually capillary effect. So how does this capillary effect develops? So actually the reason is the attraction between the glass tube and the liquid molecule is strong enough, which overcomes the cohesive force of the liquid molecules, okay, and thus pull them up in the tube. That is known as the liquid. So this is an example given here. You can see here I have a liquid, a bowl of liquid, and I inserted a vertical tube. The liquid is going to rise some distance h, okay, and this is the meniscus is going to form. If the meniscus is forming here, as I'm just pointing my, you can see the pointer is here. This is the meniscus form, and the contact angle is given by sigma. So how does the most important question is, how does the liquid remain stationary inside the tube? So what are the forces acting upon it? There are two forces acting upon it. One is the weight of the liquid, which tries to pull it down, right? The weight of the liquid actually tries to pull it down. Another is the surface tension force, which tries to pull it up. When a liquid, like especially in case here of water, rise in a tube, these two forces balance each other and try to keep the liquid stationary at those positions. So if I consider the diameter of the tube is d, the glass tube, and the liquid rise is given in the column is by h. So what will be the expression? I think this is also the same schematic diagram what I have shown here. I have just mentioned the different force balance here. So one is the weight force, another is the surface tension force, which is given by 2 pi r sigma. So let's look into the expression next slides. So here the surface tension force try to pull the liquid up, and if it's create an angle of contact theta between the liquid and the glass tube, then the weight of the liquid, the surface tension force actually has been given here. It will be the circumferential area into the surface tension force. Now the circumference is actually 2 pi r or pi d, and since it's making a contact angle of theta, so that will be cos theta, because the angle is cos theta here. Okay, this component will be cos theta. So that will be sigma pi d cos theta, and the another is the weight of the liquid, which is nothing but area of the tube into height into rho g, because that is the total weight of the liquid. If you multiply area into height is the volume into rho mass into g, so mass mg. So this expression is for mg, that is weight of the liquid trying to pull it down. The area of the tube is pi d square by 4, h is the height, rho is the density of the liquid, and g is the acceleration due to gravity. So these two expressions, if I equate in the equilibrium, these two expressions should be equilibrated, and the expression for h will be 4 sigma cos theta by rho gd. Okay, so next slide you can see, if I take h, the height of the liquid will be 4 sigma rho gd. So what is actually this tells? It tells a lot of things, that this expression, if rho is low, like if the density of that liquid is less than water, like something which is the density is very low, so the rise will be higher. Okay, because h is inversely proportional to rho. Again, sigma is the surface tension. If the surface tension force is higher, then rise of the liquid will be higher, because h is directly proportional to sigma. Another expression d is the diameter of the tube. So the smaller the diameter of the tube, the higher the rise will be in the higher the rise of the liquid will be in the glass tube. So these are the expressions. Now, contact angle depends on both the liquid as well as the solid. Solid means here is the glass tube. If theta is less than 90, liquid is said to be wet, the solid, or actually it is going to be weighted like the water. Water, the theta is always less than 90. However, if theta is greater than 90, like the case in mercury, and it is going to repel by the solid, so it is going to be a non-weighting characteristic. Okay. For example, I have given water weights glass, but not wax. Similarly, mercury, on the other hand, does not weight glass. So what happens if you have a mercury instead of water? If you place a vertical tube, the mercury is going to fall. It's not going to rise. It's going to fall. That's what has been shown into the next slide. Here, you see as you have a weighting fluid, the water is due to that the water meniscus on the upper side, because the water weights the glass tube, so it is going to rise. Whereas mercury, the meniscus at the lower side, so because mercury fall. This is the expression. As you see, water, there is a rise in the rise of water in the glass tube, whereas in case of mercury, there will be fall, and the level will be below than the mercury level outside. Okay, this is the fall, less than 0. Here H greater than 0. So let's I think derive the expression for capillary fall. The same principle what I have just mentioned is going to act, or is going to be applicable here also. But here actually two forces which are actually hydrostatic force, which is trying to push the mercury upwards direction. Another is the surface tension force, which is trying to pull it down, the mercury in the glass column. Okay, so these two forces are going to balance each other. So the first is the surface tension force, sigma pi d cos theta, and second one is the hydrostatic force, that is the weight of the liquid, the area into H, so that is sim pi d square by 4 into rho g, the expression, and surface tension force, as I just mentioned, sigma pi d cos theta. So the expression will be same, H 4 sigma cos theta rho g d. But here the expression, since theta is greater than 90, so if you take any value, this expression will become negative, right? So H will be negative. So that suggests or signify here that liquid is going to fall. The liquid not going to rise, it is going to fall. Let's look into some practical example and some numericals. Here actually first one is capillary rise. Calculate the capillary rise in a glass tube of 2.5 millimeter diameter when immersed vertically in water and mercury. All of the parameters given: surface tension 0.075 Newton per meter, and for water, and sigma given 0.52 Newton per meter for mercury. In contact with air, the specific gravity of mercury is given 13.6 and angle of contact 130. So let's solve for the first case, water. Water, all the parameters are given. So the density of the mercury will be specific gravity into 1000, you know. For water, capillary rise theta I have considered 0, so H will be 4 sigma rho GD. All the parameters given, so it will be 1.18 centimeter. For the mercury, theta is given 130, so you put cos 130, and it will be, you have to calculate it, this negative value. Remaining all other parameters pretty much given same except the sigma, because sigma for mercury is 0.52. I think other parameters here, density is also 13.60,000. Remaining other parameters remain constant. So here it is become negative. So as you can see, for water, this is positive 1.18 centimeter. For mercury, it is negative minus 0.4 centimeter. The reason is very simple, because the weighting characteristics are different for water and mercury. One weights, another non-weights. So one, the water, it is going to rise, and mercury is going to fall. Next example, similar, find out the minimum size of the glass tube. So here actually you have to determine the size. Capillary rise is given 2 millimeters. Surface tension is given 0.073575. Diameter of the tube you have to consider 0. Angle for water you consider 0. So density of water is given. So H 4 sigma rho GD, you put all the value and you calculate D 1.5 centimeter. So this is very straightforward. I think this is another example 11 is another numerical. Calculate the capillary effect in millimeter in a glass tube of 4 millimeter diameter when immersed in water, mercury. Temperature of the liquid is given 20 C. In contact with air are 0.073575 Newton per meter and 0.51 Newton per meter. These are the surface tension. The angle of contact for water 0 mercury, I think 1 point, it should be 130 degree. Take density of water at 20 C as equal to 998 kg per meter cube. So it's very simple. The expression you know, sigma given 0 for water, theta 0, rho 0. So H will be 7.51, just like the previous example. And mercury, it will be minus 2.46 millimeter. So I have given this numerical so that you can understand the difference between how the water rises in a glass column or glass tube, whereas mercury falls. The reasons are very simple. As I said, the weighting characteristics are different. Another most important factor which need to look into it, that the sigma value for water and mercury are completely different. Okay, the sigma value for water is very small, whereas mercury is in higher size. So let's move to some basic thermodynamic properties of fluids. Fluids, whether it's a liquid or gas, okay, are actually gases are generally considered compressible fluids, and their thermodynamic properties plays an important role, because for gases, if you change the temperature, pressure, there will be large variation in density. Okay, so for relationship between pressure, specific volume, and temperature of a gas is given by PV by RT, whereas V is 1 by rho, so P by rho RT. The rho is actually P is absolute pressure, and this V is specific volume, which is given by 1 over rho, and remaining other R is a gas constant. T is absolute temperature, rho is density of the gas. So here this sigma, this symbol actually is a specific volume which is given by 1 over rho. Okay. Next is gas constant. I just mentioned, what is the gas constant? This is the value. Now, most important is there are two processes. One is called isothermal process. Another is called adiabatic process. What is isothermal process? If there is a density change at a certain temperature, and the process is called isothermal, and the relationship between pressure and density is given by P by rho equal to constant. Okay. So isothermal, as the name suggests, any change in the density occurs at a certain constant temperature. So you take it to a certain temperature, and then you measure the density. Okay. So the temperature is constant, but the pressure and density varies. Okay. Now comes to the adiabatic process. If that change in density occurs, we know heat exchange to and from the gas inside the system. So there is no heat exchange to the outside system. Whatever heat is being generated, that is going to remain within the system. So the process is called adiabatic. And if not, heat is generated within the gas due to friction. The relationship between the pressure and density is given by P by rho K equal to constant, where K is called ratio of specific heat of the gas at a constant pressure and constant volume. That is actually K you have to determine specific ratio of specific heat, Cp, okay, Cp at constant pressure and constant volume, and this is generally 1.4 for air. So that's how you determine. Now compressibility and bulk modulus. Compressibility is nothing but a reciprocal of the bulk modulus, and it is given by K, which is ratio of the compressive strain and volumetric strain. Now let's assume a cylinder. I have given in the next cylinder here actually. You see this cylinder is being given, fitted with a piston. V is the volume of the gas enclosed within the cylinder, and P is the pressure of the gas when volume is V. Now what happens if you increase the pressure? Because it's a closed system, the volume is going to decrease. Okay. So this increase in pressure dP is corresponds to decrease in volume dV. So the volumetric strain or the volumetric difference is the dV over V. That is negative because volume, the negative sign comes here because volume decreases. Okay. And the pressure increases. Okay. So the bulk modulus is given by increase in pressure, the amount of pressure, the increase in the pressure over the volumetric strain, that is dP by minus dV by V, dP by minus dP by dV by V, that is called the bulk modulus. And the compressibility is given by 1 over K. So these are some thermodynamic parameters which you may require when you solve some numerical. The best example is like, I think you inflate a soccer ball or inflate a cycle tire. And these are the bulk modulus, compressibility comes into picture. because there actually there is a increase in pressure and decrease in volume. If we consider that the volume is constant, okay, so that's why the one parameter increases and another decreases. These are actually where actually bulk modulus and compressibility comes into picture. I think I have listed various dimensions which are mainly being used. I think you all pretty much know what are these dimensions are. Important to remember, because when you solve the numerical, you may need to know, because you can look into this later on. I have given here, I have listed here so that it's become easy for you, especially like viscosity, relative density, power, okay, watt, power, the unit of power is watt, which is nothing but kg meter square per second cube. But really people use watt, Newton meter per second. Similarly, viscosity, you all know it's a Pascal second or Newton second per meter square. But if you put all the units together, then it becomes kg per meter per second. So that is the reason I have given you, or maybe energy, it's joule or Newton meter, okay. I have listed all these units. It's become easy for you while solving numericals. Okay.